Alex Mason stared at the blinking light on his control panel. The distress signal was weak but steady, coming from the small moon orbiting the gas giant ahead. He checked his ship's scanners again. The horizon was 3 days away, and protocol said to report and wait for backup. But something about this signal felt different. "Computer, how long would a life pod survive in those conditions?" Alex asked, running his hand through his short brown hair. "Approximately 18 hours remaining on standard emergency systems," the computer replied. Alex sighed. By the time the horizon arrived, whoever sent that signal would be long dead. He made his decision and adjusted course. "Sending situation report to Captain Beck," he said aloud as he typed. "Investigating distress call on Epsilon 4's moon. Will maintain communication protocols." His small scout ship cut through space smoothly. Alex was a good pilot, one of the best in the Earth Alliance fleet. At 32, he had served for over a decade, but the outer colonies still held mysteries that excited him. 3 hours later, he orbited the rocky moon. The landscape below was barren and gray, with deep craters and sharp mountain ranges. His sensors detected the crashed vessel in a narrow valley. "That's not Alliance design," Alex muttered as he guided his ship down. The crashed vessel had a sleek, organic look to it, with curves that reminded him of a predatory animal. Its dark hull reflected no light. Alex landed his scout ship at a safe distance and ran environmental checks. The atmosphere was thin but breathable. He suited up anyway, taking his standard equipment and a medical kit. The alien ship had torn a long gash in the moon's surface. As Alex approached, he saw the hull was cracked open, revealing dim lights inside. The design was unlike anything in Earth Alliance records. "Captain Beck would tell me to turn around right now," Alex said to himself with a small smile. But curiosity had always been his weakness. The entrance was a jagged tear in the hull. Alex activated his suit lights and stepped inside. The air was dense and warm, with a strange smell that his filters couldn't completely block. "Hello," he called out. "This is Lieutenant Alex Mason of the Earth Alliance. I received your distress signal." A low sound echoed through the ship, something between a growl and a mechanical hum. Alex's hand moved to his sidearm, but he didn't draw it. Following the sound, he moved deeper into the vessel. The corridors were high and narrow, built for something taller than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls. The growl came again, louder. Alex rounded a corner and froze. The creature was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with a dark exoskeleton that seemed to absorb the light from his suit. Its body was lean and powerful, with 4 arms ending in clawed hands. The head was elongated, with no visible eyes, but patterns of blue-green light pulsed across its surface. One of its legs was pinned under a fallen support beam, and a thick blue-black fluid pooled beneath it. It was injured, and it was like nothing Alex had ever seen. The creature let out another growl, raising its upper limbs in a defensive posture. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Every training manual would have told Alex to retreat immediately. Unknown alien species, predatory appearance, potentially hostile. The protocol was clear. Instead, Alex slowly holstered his weapon and raised his empty hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said calmly. "You're injured. I can help." The creature tilted its head, the lights on its surface pulsing faster. It made a series of clicking sounds. Alex pointed to his medical kit, then to the creature's injured leg. "Help," he repeated. "I want to help you." For several long moments, they stared at each other. Then, slowly, the creature lowered its arms and made a different sound, softer, almost like a sigh. Alex approached carefully. As he knelt beside the injured leg, he noticed more of the bioluminescent patterns across the creature's body. They weren't random. They looked almost like writing. "You're intelligent," Alex whispered. "Really intelligent." As he worked to free the trapped limb, the creature watched him. When Alex applied a medical sealant to the wound, the creature touched his arm gently with one clawed hand. "Vexnar," it said in a voice that seemed to vibrate through Alex's chest. "I am Vexnar." Alex paced nervously in the small cargo hold of his scout ship. It had been 3 days since he brought Vexnar aboard, hiding the alien from the ship's main sensors by placing it in a modified storage container designed for biological samples. He wasn't sure why he had taken such a risk, but something about leaving the creature to die had felt wrong. "Your injury is healing well," Alex said, checking the blue-black patch on Vexnar's leg. The alien's natural healing abilities were remarkable, far beyond human capacity. Vexnar's luminescent patterns shifted, forming new arrangements. After days of working together, Alex was beginning to recognize certain patterns as words or concepts. "Gratitude," Vexnar said. The translation device Alex had rigged from spare parts was crude but functional. Few would help Calaxian. Most fear, most kill. Alex nodded. "I've never heard of your species before." "Because survivors do not speak of Calaxians," Vexnar replied. "We are death in the darkness, the nightmare that hunts. This is what others believe." The alien's 4 hands moved in complex patterns as it spoke, adding meaning that the translator couldn't capture. "But you're not just a predator," Alex said. "You were flying a science vessel. The equipment I salvaged from your ship was for research, not weapons." Vexnar's body lights pulsed softly. "I am scientist, diplomat, first of my kind to seek understanding with other species." Alex sat down on a storage crate. Why would a species of predators need scientists? Why does prey species need soldiers? Vexnar countered. Alex smiled. Fair point. Over the next few hours, they shared information about their civilizations. Vexnar explained that Calaxians had evolved on a harsh world of constant darkness, developing their light patterns as both communication and sensory tools. They had mastered space travel centuries ago, but remained isolated by choice, and by the fear they inspired. "Others see only these," Vexnar said, clicking its teeth together. "Not see this." It tapped its head. "On Earth, we had predators too," Alex explained. "Wolves, sharks, big cats. We feared them for thousands of years. But eventually we learned that they were complex creatures with important roles in nature." Vexnar absorbed this information silently, its lights shifting in contemplation. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden lurch as the ship dropped out of its smooth flight. Warning lights flashed. "Something's wrong with the engine," Alex said, jumping to his feet. He ran to the cargo hold door but stopped. "Stay here, if anyone sees you." "I understand," Vexnar said. 10 minutes later, Alex returned, his face pale. "The cooling system is failing. If the engine overheats, the whole ship could explode." "Show me problem," Vexnar said, rising to its full height. "I can't take you to engineering. If someone sees you, then we both die," Vexnar interrupted. "Calaxians, no heat, no cooling." Alex hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me, but stay close to the walls. If we hear anyone coming, hide." They made their way through the empty corridors to the engine room. The small scout ship had minimal crew areas, making it easier to move undetected. Inside engineering, Alex showed Vexnar the failing cooling system. The alien studied it briefly, then began working with all 4 hands, moving with surprising precision for such a large creature. "Design inefficient," Vexnar commented. "Reroute coolant flow here and here." Together, they rebuilt the cooling system in less than an hour. When they finished, the engine temperature began dropping immediately. "That was amazing," Alex said. "Where did you learn to do that?" "Am scientist," Vexnar replied simply. "Study many technologies." As they returned to the cargo hold, Alex realized something had changed. He no longer saw Vexnar as a creature to fear or even pity. He saw an equal, perhaps even a friend. "My people would never believe this," Alex said as they reached the safety of the hold. A human and a Calaxian, working together. Vexinar's lights formed a pattern Alex hadn't seen before. First time for everything. Alex Mason. The door to the cargo hold burst open with a loud bang. Captain Olivia Beck stood in the doorway, flanked by 4 security officers with weapons drawn. Her face was a mask of shock and anger as she stared at Alex and Vexinar. "Lieutenant Mason, step away from that thing immediately," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Alex moved to stand between the security team and Vexinar. "Captain, I can explain. This is Vexinar. He's not dangerous." "Not dangerous." Beck's voice rose in disbelief. "That's a Calaxian, the most lethal predatory species known to the Alliance." The security officers spread out, their weapons trained on Vexinar, who remained perfectly still, its light patterns pulsing slowly. "Sir, how did it get on board?" one of the officers asked, his finger hovering near the trigger. "I brought him here," Alex admitted. "I found him injured when I investigated that distress signal. He needed help." Captain Beck's expression hardened. "You knowingly brought an apex predator onto an Alliance vessel. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Word spread quickly through the ship. Within hours, the entire crew knew about the Calaxian, the cargo hold. Most wanted nothing to do with it, their fears fueled by stories of Calaxian attacks on space stations and colonies. Alex was confined to his quarters while Captain Beck contacted Alliance Command. When the door to his room slid open that evening, he expected more security officers. Instead, he found Chief Communications Officer Maya Peterson. "They've called an emergency hearing," she told him. "The Galactic Council has sent representatives. They're saying you've committed treason by harboring a Calaxian." Alex sat heavily on his bunk. "What about Vexinar?" Maya looked uncomfortable. "They've moved him to the secure containment unit. The Council wants him terminated." "What? They can't do that. He's sentient, intelligent. He's a scientist." "Alex," Maya said gently, "people are terrified of Calaxians. There are records of them slaughtering entire settlements. Has anyone ever tried talking to them?" Alex demanded. The hearing was held in the ship's main conference room the next day. Alex stood before a panel of 3 Galactic Council representatives and Captain Beck. Vexinar was brought in, surrounded by a portable containment field, its limbs bound by energy restraints. "Lieutenant Alexander Mason," began the lead council representative, a stern woman named Counselor Palmer, "you stand accused of endangering Alliance personnel by knowingly bringing a Class 1 hostile life form aboard an Alliance vessel. How do you plead?" "Not guilty," Alex said firmly. "Vexinar is not a hostile. He's a scientist and diplomat from the Calaxian species." Murmurs rippled through the room. Counselor Palmer looked skeptical. "The Calaxians are not known for science or diplomacy, Lieutenant. They are known for their hunting prowess and the destruction they've caused throughout the galaxy." "Has anyone ever tried to communicate with them?" Alex asked. "Or have we just been shooting at each other for centuries?" "The evidence speaks for itself," said another counselor, a thin man with cold eyes. 17 documented attacks on Alliance outposts in the last decade alone. Alex turned to Vexinar. Tell them about your mission." The translating device Alex had built crackled to life as Vexinar spoke. "I am scientist, first contact specialist, seeking peace between our kinds." "A convenient claim," the third counselor said dismissively. "How do we know this isn't some trick to infiltrate our defenses?" "If he wanted to attack us, he could have done it already," Alex argued. "He helped me repair the ship when our cooling system failed. He saved all our lives." Captain Beck frowned. "The ship logs do show that the cooling system was repaired during your solo shift, Mason. A repair that should have been impossible for one person to complete so quickly." For a moment, Alex thought he might be getting through to them. But then Counselor Palmer spoke again. "The Council's decision is final. The Calaxian will be terminated as a security threat, and Lieutenant Mason will face court-martial for his actions. As security officers moved toward Vexnar, Alex saw the alien's light patterns shift to a configuration he'd never seen before. It wasn't fear or anger. It was sadness. "You're making a terrible mistake," Alex said quietly. "He's not our enemy." But his words fell on deaf ears as they led Vexnar away. Alex couldn't sleep. The execution was scheduled for tomorrow morning. He paced his quarters, which had become his prison cell. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Vexnar's sad light patterns as they led him away. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. The door slid open to reveal Maya Peterson. "We don't have much time," she whispered, glancing down the corridor. "I've been monitoring communications from the council representatives. Something isn't right." "What do you mean?" Alex asked. "They're too eager to eliminate Vexnar before they even spoke to him. And I found encrypted transmissions being sent to an unknown location after they arrived." Maya handed Alex a small datapad. "Security access codes. The night shift just started, and I've looped the surveillance cameras in Section C. You have maybe 20 minutes before someone notices." Alex stared at her. "You're helping me break him out." "Why?" "Because I've studied languages my whole life, and when that Calaxian spoke," she paused. "Communication that complex doesn't come from a mindless predator. There's a civilization there, one we know nothing about." 5 minutes later, Alex moved quietly through the ship's lower decks. The containment unit was poorly guarded. After all, who would try to free a Calaxian? Vexnar sat motionless in the energy field, its lights dimmed. It looked up as Alex entered the code to deactivate the field. "Alex Mason," Vexnar said. "Why come?" "I'm getting you out of here," Alex replied, working to remove the restraints. "You don't deserve to die for trying to make peace." The ship's emergency systems suddenly blared to life. A computerized voice echoed through the corridors. "Alert. Containment breach in Section C. All security personnel report." "We need to move," Alex said urgently. "Maya has a transport prepped in Docking Bay 3. They ran through the service corridors, avoiding the main passageways. Twice they had to hide as security teams rushed past. When they reached the docking bay, Maya was waiting beside a small transport vessel. "The engines are hot," she said. "I've loaded basic supplies and disabled the tracking system." "You're risking everything," Alex said. Maya smiled slightly. "Sometimes you have to choose what's right over what's allowed." Alarms sounded as they began the launch sequence. The docking bay doors started to close. "They're trying to lock us in," Alex said, taking the pilot's chair. He pushed the engines to maximum, and the small ship shot through the narrowing gap into open space. "Alliance vessel, return immediately, or we will open fire." Captain Beck's voice came through the comm system. "I'm sorry, Captain," Alex replied. "I can't let them kill him." The transport shuddered as the first warning shots passed nearby. Alex piloted the ship toward a dense asteroid field. "They won't follow us in there," he told Vexnar, who watched the approaching rocks with interest. "Calaxian outpost in Myriad system," Vexnar said. 3 days' travel. Safe there." As they navigated the treacherous field, Vexnar moved to a storage compartment Maya had marked. Inside was a data core salvaged from his crashed ship. "Research data," Vexnar explained, connecting it to the transport's computer. "Many years' work. Prove truth." "What truth?" Alex asked, maneuvering around a spinning asteroid. Vexnar's light patterns formed complex sequences as information appeared on the screen. Video footage, sensor data, and communication logs filled the display. "Most attacks, not Calaxian," Vexnar said simply. Alex stared at the evidence. The footage showed ships with Calaxian markings attacking settlements, but when Vexnar slowed the video, subtle differences appeared. The attackers were similar to Calaxians, but smaller, with different light patterns. "These aren't your people," Alex realized. "No. Sertian ships, made to look Calaxian. Create fear, create profit from weapons sales. As they cleared the asteroid field, a new alert sounded. 2 Alliance pursuit vessels had found them. "They're closing fast," Alex said, checking the sensors. Vexnar moved to the co-pilot position, its 4 hands working the controls with remarkable skill. "Have idea," the alien said. "Trust me." Alex looked at his unlikely friend and nodded. "Yes, I trust you." Together, they set course for an unmapped area of space, the pursuit ships closing the distance behind them. The transport ship shuddered violently as it entered the atmosphere of the uncharted planet. Alex gripped the controls, fighting to maintain stability as they descended through thick storm clouds. Warning lights flashed across the console. "Engine 2 failing," Vexnar reported, its 4 hands moving rapidly over the secondary controls. "Hull integrity at 60%. "We're coming in too fast," Alex said through gritted teeth. "Brace for impact." The small ship broke through the cloud layer, revealing a vast landscape of purple-tinged forests and towering rock formations. Alex aimed for a clearing, but the failing engines gave them little control. They hit the ground hard, skidding through dense vegetation before crashing against a rocky outcrop. For several minutes, the only sound was the hiss of ruptured cooling systems and the ping of hot metal contracting. Alex lifted his head from the control panel, wincing at the pain in his ribs. Beside him, Vexnar lay motionless, blue-black fluid leaking from a gash in its exoskeleton. "Vexnar, can you hear me?" Alex reached over, touching the alien's arm gently. The Calaxian's light patterns flickered weakly, then stabilized. "Function continues," it said. "Ship, not so good." A quick assessment confirmed Vexnar's observation. The transport was beyond repair. Their pursuit had been lost when they entered the uncharted region, but they were now stranded on an unknown world with limited supplies. Alex patched up Vexnar's wound while the alien scanned the environment with a salvaged sensor unit. Atmosphere breathable. High oxygen content. Vegetation appears non-toxic. Local life forms. Vexnar paused, its lights pulsing rapidly. Numerous, some very large. As if to emphasize the point, a deep roar echoed through the forest. Alex froze, his hand moving instinctively to his sidearm. "What was that?" he whispered. "Not know," Vexnar replied. "But sound indicates apex predator, larger than Calaxian." Alex looked at his alien friend with surprise. "Larger than you? And you're worried." "Calaxians not top of all food chains," Vexnar said. A pattern of lights that Alex had learned indicated something like humor flickering across its body. "Just most. They salvage what they could from the ship before nightfall. Food rations, medical supplies, some basic tools, and Vexnar's data core." As darkness fell, strange bioluminescent plants began to glow throughout the forest, bathing the landscape in eerie blue light. "Reminds me of your light patterns," Alex observed as they built a small shelter against the crashed ship's hull. "Yes, similar evolutionary path perhaps," Vexnar said, examining one of the glowing plants with scientific curiosity. "Homeworld similar. Dark. Life make own light." They took turns keeping watch through the night. The strange cries of alien creatures kept Alex on edge, but nothing approached their camp. At dawn, they began exploring their surroundings. The gravity was slightly less than Earth standard, making it easier to climb the rocky terrain for a better view. From a high ridge, they could see that they had crashed in a valley surrounded by mountains. In the distance, something reflected sunlight. "Structure," Vexnar said, pointing with one of its upper limbs. "Not natural formation." It took them 3 days to reach the distant structure, navigating through dense forests and open plains. Along the way, they encountered the local wildlife. Most creatures fled from them, but twice they had to hide from massive 6-legged predators that moved with frightening speed despite their bulk. During their journey, Alex learned more about Calaxian society than any human ever had. Vexnar explained their complex family structures, their art forms based on light patterns, and their philosophical beliefs about the interconnectedness of all species. Why do Calaxians isolate themselves? Alex asked one evening as they rested. Fear, Vexnar replied simply. Not our fear, others' fear of us. After first contacts went badly, elders decided separation's safer. But you disagreed, Alex said. Yes, isolation leads to stagnation. Galaxy big, many species, much to learn, much to share. On the fourth day, they reached their destination. Before them stood an enormous structure, clearly artificial but ancient. Massive stone columns supported a domed roof, partially collapsed with age. Strange symbols covered the walls, similar to nothing Alex had seen in Alliance records. What is this place? He wondered aloud. Vexnar's light patterns shifted rapidly as it examined the symbols. Communication center, very old. Perhaps builders of the pathway network. Inside the ancient structure, dust floated in beams of light that shone through holes in the ceiling. Alex ran his hand along a wall covered in strange symbols. They seemed to glow faintly at his touch. These remind me of your light patterns, he said to Vexnar. The Calaxian moved deeper into the structure, its own lights shifting in what Alex now recognized as excitement. Yes, similar communication method. This confirms theory. What theory? That ancestors of Calaxians had contact with builders of pathway network, cultural exchange. They reached a central chamber where a large circular platform dominated the floor. Around it stood consoles made of a material that resembled black glass. Most were cracked or broken, but one still glowed with faint power. Incredible, Alex whispered. This technology must be thousands of years old, and it's still working. Vexnar approached the functioning console, examining it carefully. Emergency power system. Very efficient design. Its four hands began working across the surface, which responded to its touch with pulses of light. Can you understand it? Alex asked. Some. Language similar to ancient Calaxian script. This is communication array. Vexnar's lights formed complex patterns as it concentrated. Can broadcast across galaxy if activated properly. For 3 days, they worked to understand and repair the ancient system. Alex used his engineering skills to reconnect power sources, while Vexnar deciphered the operating language. They took breaks only when necessary, driven by the knowledge that this might be their only chance to share their discovery. On the fourth day, a deep rumbling sound from outside stopped their work. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Something's coming, Alex said, drawing his weapon. They moved to the entrance just in time to see 3 massive creatures emerge from the forest. They walked on 6 legs with armored bodies and multiple eyes that glowed in the twilight. The largest had scars across its face and moved with deliberate purpose. Those are the apex predators we've been avoiding, Alex whispered. Vexnar's light patterns dimmed to near invisibility. Yes, dangerous. But look closer. Alex squinted and noticed something unexpected. The creatures wore simple harnesses with pouches containing tools. The leader carried what appeared to be a primitive spear. They're intelligent, he realized. Yes, and watching us since arrival, Vexnar said. Time to attempt communication. Before Alex could protest, Vexnar stepped outside, its lights forming slow, simple patterns. The creatures stopped, their multiple eyes fixed on the Calaxian. To Alex's amazement, the lead creature's eyes began to pulse with light in response. A simple back and forth began, not words, but a gradual establishment of mutual recognition. After an hour of this basic communication, the creatures departed, disappearing back into the forest. What did they say? Alex asked when Vexnar returned. Not much can translate, but they know of Array, know its purpose, will not interfere. With renewed determination, they completed their work on the communication system. By the following dawn, Vexnar announced it was ready. Now comes difficult part, the Calaxian said. What message to send? Alex thought for a moment. The truth. All of it. Your research data, our friendship, the Sershan deception. They connected Vexnar's data core to the ancient console. Alex recorded his own testimony, explaining how he had come to befriend a Calaxian and discovered the conspiracy that had kept their species in conflict. Message ready, Vexnar said finally. But problem remains. We'll need significant power surge to reach both human and Calaxian territories. How much power? Alex asked. All remaining energy in system. One transmission only. No second chance. They looked at each other, understanding the stakes. This was their one opportunity to change the course of galactic history. Do it, Alex said firmly. Vexnar activated the sequence. The entire structure hummed with energy as lights flashed across all surfaces. The central platform began to glow, brighter and brighter, until Alex had to shield his eyes. A beam of energy shot upward through the dome, into the sky, and beyond, carrying their message to the stars. When the light faded, they stood in darkness. The console was dead, its power completely drained. Did it work? Alex asked. Before Vexnar could answer, a new light appeared, the familiar glow of a ship's engines descending through the atmosphere. Someone received, Vexnar said, its lights forming a pattern of cautious hope. As the ship grew closer, Alex recognized its design. That's an Alliance vessel, he said. Captain Beck's ship. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was filled to capacity. Representatives from 27 species sat in tiered seats that formed a perfect circle. At the center stood Alex Mason and Vexnar, side by side beneath the bright lights. Chief Counselor Reeves, a tall woman with gray hair and a stern expression, called the session to order. We are here today to address the evidence presented by Lieutenant Alexander Mason of Earth and scientist Vexnar of Calax. Their transmission has caused significant disruption to established galactic relationships. Alex glanced at Vexnar, whose light patterns pulsed slowly, a sign of calm determination they had developed during their weeks on the uncharted planet. The journey back to civilized space had been tense but uneventful. Captain Beck had explained that their broadcast had reached both Earth Alliance and Calaxian territory simultaneously, forcing an emergency meeting of the Council. Lieutenant Mason, Counselor Reeves continued, please explain to this body why you chose to violate direct orders and flee with a being classified as extremely dangerous. Alex stepped forward. Because that classification was wrong. Vexnar is a scientist and diplomat. His people are not mindless predators, but a complex civilization with art, philosophy, and technology that rivals our own. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A representative from the Altarian Federation stood up. We have records of 17 Calaxian attacks in the past decade alone, he said. How do you explain that? Those weren't Calaxian attacks, Alex replied. He nodded to a technician, who displayed the evidence from Vexnar's data core on the large screens around the chamber. These ships were disguised to look like Calaxian vessels. They were actually operated by Sersians. The chamber erupted in shocked conversations. The Sersians were known as peaceful traders who supplied weapons to multiple factions during conflicts. Their representative, a small pale being, rose from his seat. These are fabrications. We have always been neutral in galactic affairs. Vexnar stepped forward, its lights forming the pattern for truth. Data contains Sersian communication codes, ship identification markers, proof of manufactured conflict. More evidence appeared on the screens, financial records showing how Sersian weapons manufacturers had profited enormously from the fear of Calaxian attacks, selling defense systems to colonies throughout the galaxy. The Sersians created a false enemy, Alex explained. They staged attacks, blamed the Calaxians, then sold protection against a threat they themselves manufactured. The Sersian representative tried to respond but was silenced when his own security detail stepped back from him, clearly disturbed by the evidence. After hours of testimony and questioning, the council called a recess to deliberate. Alex and Vexnar waited in a small room adjacent to the main chamber. "Do you think they'll believe us?" Alex asked. "Truth has weight," Vexnar replied. "Its lights forming a pattern of quiet confidence cannot be ignored forever." When they were called back, the chamber had changed. The Circean representative was gone, replaced by a different member of his species who looked troubled and apologetic. Chief Counselor Reeves addressed them. "The Council has reviewed all evidence and found it compelling. We have already dispatched investigators to Circean trading outposts, where they have discovered additional proof of this conspiracy." She turned to Vexnar. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend our formal apology to the Calaxian people for centuries of misunderstanding and hostility." Vexnar's lights pulsed in a pattern that Alex recognized as deep emotion. "Apology accepted. Calaxians also bear responsibility. Our isolation contributed to fear." Alex stepped forward. "What happens now?" Counselor Reeves smiled slightly. "That, Lieutenant Mason, is largely up to you and your friend. Your unique partnership has created an unprecedented opportunity." In the weeks that followed, Alex was reinstated to his position in the Earth Alliance. Vexnar was appointed as the first official Calaxian ambassador, establishing an embassy on Earth where other humans could learn about Calaxian culture. Together, they created a joint human-Calaxian exploration initiative, with crews from both species working side by side. 5 years later, Alex stood with Vexnar in the central plaza of New Unity Station, watching as the cover was removed from a large statue. It depicted a human and a Calaxian standing together, their hands joined in friendship. At the base was a simple inscription in multiple languages. "Understanding begins with one brave friendship." 10 years after the formation of the Galactic Cooperative, Alex Mason stood at the observation deck of the New Beginning, watching the swirling blue-green atmosphere of Calax Prime. It was his first visit to Vexnar's homeworld, a planet that had been closed to outsiders for centuries. "Nervous?" asked Captain Olivia Beck, who now commanded the diplomatic vessel. The years had added silver streaks to her dark hair, but her eyes remained as sharp as ever. "A little," Alex admitted. "I'm the first human to set foot on Calax." Beck smiled. "And who better? The man who changed how we see the galaxy." The ship descended through thick cloud layers into perpetual twilight. Calax orbited a dim red star, receiving little direct sunlight. As they broke through the clouds, an incredible landscape appeared below them. Vast bioluminescent forests spread across the surface, their soft glow creating patterns visible from orbit. Cities rose from the terrain, structures that seemed to grow from the planet itself, all pulsing with intricate light displays. "It's beautiful," Alex whispered. Their shuttle landed on a platform extending from a towering structure at the center of the largest city. A delegation waited for them, led by Vexnar, whose exoskeleton now bore the ceremonial markings of the High Council of Calax. "Welcome, Alex Mason," Vexnar said formally as Alex stepped onto Calaxian soil. "Your presence honors us." Behind Vexnar stood 7 other Calaxians, their light patterns displaying a mixture of curiosity and respect. One stepped forward, smaller than the others, but with intensely bright patterns. "This is Zexer," Vexnar explained. "My offspring, born after our friendship began, named in your honor." Alex felt a lump in his throat. "I'm deeply touched." The young Calaxian's lights formed a pattern Alex recognized as excitement. "Have studied human history," Zexer said through a translator. "Especially story of Alex Mason and my parent. First friendship between our kinds." The delegation led them through the city, where other Calaxians stopped to observe the human visitors. Unlike the fear their appearance once caused throughout the galaxy, Alex saw only interest and occasional light patterns of welcome. They arrived at a vast chamber where thousands of Calaxians had gathered. Their combined light patterns created a breathtaking display that moved like waves across the crowd. At the center was a raised platform where the High Council sat. "The Children of Light welcome Alexander Mason, friend of Calax," announced an elder Calaxian, its voice resonating through the chamber. Alex stepped forward as Vexnar had instructed him. "I come in friendship and gratitude for your welcome," he said, his words translated and projected as light patterns above his head. The eldest council member rose. 10 cycles ago, this human changed the course of our history. Today, we honor that change with a historic announcement. The council members' lights formed a complex pattern that caused a ripple of reaction through the crowd. For millennia, we have kept the greatest secret of our people hidden from outsiders, the elder continued. Today, we share it with our human allies. A section of the floor slid open, revealing a glowing crystal structure unlike anything Alex had seen before. "The heart of light," Vexnar explained quietly. "Source of our greatest technologies. A gift from the ancient ones who built the pathway network." The elder Calaxian addressed the assembly again. "The heart contains knowledge that could benefit all species. Its energy source is self-renewing, its technologies compatible with life forms across the galaxy. Together with our human allies, we will share this knowledge through the cooperative." Alex understood the magnitude of this moment. The Calaxians were not just accepting humans as allies, they were sharing their most precious resource. Later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing landscape, Vexnar's lights formed a pattern of contentment. "Did not expect this when I crashed on Moon long ago," the Calaxian said. Alex smiled. "Nor did I when I answered that distress call." "Universe has strange paths," Vexnar observed. "One small choice changes everything." Below them, young Calaxians were demonstrating their light art for the human visitors, while human scientists eagerly studied Calaxian technology. Children from both species played together, already learning each other's languages. "What do you think the next 10 years will bring?" Alex asked. Vexnar's lights shifted to a pattern Alex had never seen before. "Possibility," the translator said simply. "Endless possibility." As the glow of Calex's forests mingled with the lights of its cities, Alex realized that the universe had become a vastly different place from the fear-divided galaxy he had known, all because a human had chosen to help the creature everyone else feared.